Hey everyone, it's Nick from Nick's Crossing, and welcome to Muddy Creek Forks, Pennsylvania. This is the Heritage Village here that's connected to one of the last existing parts of the MaPa Railroad, which is the Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad, which was, I believe it was founded in 1901, or it was a merger between two different railroads, and it lasted all the way up to 1999, doing all kinds of different freight. This railroad would have ran into the heart of Baltimore, all the way up to York, Pennsylvania. They ran all kinds of things. Usually, I think the passenger service stopped in the early 1950s. The freight continued on a little bit later, but it didn't last as long. It was a short line railroad, but it was about 77 plus miles of track to get to York. So it was a long trip of track that they had to meander back and forth through the woods and all the hills and scenery of rural Maryland. But really, York is only about 45 minutes away from the central point of Baltimore where this railroad would have landed. So you can see kind of the inefficiencies. But I haven't been to this village before. You can see they have their SW9 right there in the picture. And that is one of the original MaPa pieces here. And I think I saw some railroad goodies over there. So let's go take a look. So before we check out the building behind me, there's actually a MaPa walking trail map right here. So you can see station or stop number 1. It's actually right here. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're gonna do this entire walking path today. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I haven't been here before, but this is all self-guided. I think it became self-guided because this is only open 1 day a week in the summer. They start doing their excursions in the beginning of June. From what I could see online, they're only open on Sundays. So here is stop number 1. And we have our plaque right here. So you guys can zoom in, check that out. General store built 1899. This is the general store. It appears that there is still stuff you can buy here. It looks like it says ice cream in the window up there. We can take a walk up here. I don't see why not. And I think all this is open when the railroad's operating. All kinds of hours here. I'm assuming they're closed today because today is Easter Sunday. Some old items in the window right here. Nice old stove. So it looks like they have a picnic area to my left here, which is really nice. And they also have, looks like an outhouse, which is probably original. These buildings would not have restrooms or any type of facilities back in the day. She'd have to make do outside in an outhouse. Oh, someone did leave a light on, but look, it has like the old, you guys can see in there, it's got the old school lighting, like the drop down knob and tube lights. And a panel ceiling, which is really cool. Station platform constructed. See, like 1954. So they would have ended passenger service. Yeah, I did visit another MaPa station that's located in Bel Air, Maryland. Actually, Forest Hill, Maryland. And that's still around today. So here's your station for Muddy Creek Forks. And here's the extent of it. Here we go. We can actually go over this way and check that out. There are some guys fishing today. I believe it's the start of trout season, or the beginning of trout season. It's really cool. And these ties look fairly new or replaced, but the gauge of this rail is very small. And when we get closer, might be able to find a year or something on the tracks. All right, so we'll go over here. All right, original store site. So let's check that out. Muddy Creek. So this is the original general store. 1899. See, I knew she was old. I didn't know she was that old. And look at that. All wooden construction. And then I think this is what they were talking about for the mill right here. Yeah, you don't want to walk in there. That is not grass. That's I believe that's called duckweed, and you'll fall right down. But here's some mechanical stuff for the mill that was here. We'll get down and check it out. So yeah, you can see I'm assuming the wheel or the you can hear it draining down into like the basement of here. That's insane. So I'm assuming this would have been part of the mill back in the day. So all of this looks like it would have been some type of channel to lead up to the mill. It does look like an entryway, but there's a ton of water down there. We're not going down there. All right, we got more signs here. All right, here we go. So here is the mill. 1890, installed a fully automated roller mill. So that would have been, I'm assuming what that was for, part of the roller mill right there. High quality white flour ground in the roller, shipped to market by boxcar. But you can see this is related to the railroad. This looks like a loading dock, very old loading dock right here. And you can see there's some mechanics or mechanical parts in this gully here where that is underneath the mill. You can see they put in a lead rail here because of the turn, I'm assuming. So that's at least what this was for. This is the shipping area. You can see that had a loading door, goes up a couple floors. It's all wooden structure. You can even see the frame of this. The foundation's all wood, but that looks fairly newly restored, so that's great to see. So we're gonna continue. I'm gonna walk on the ties very carefully so I don't fall. And now we're getting into some older ties here. Most of them do look replaced. Oh, that's cool. So this is for loading cars. This would flip down onto a boxcar, just like a loading ramp. We're actually gonna keep on going down. We're in the middle of the gauge here. It's usually I don't do, but this railroad's not operating anytime soon. This is pretty cool. Check out these. These are old frogs, as we would call them. These basically guide the wheels over switches. You can see when they would turn out that way or that way. So these guide the flange on the wheel so you don't derail. And here's actually a bunch of older ties to my left right here. So that's pretty cool to see. That whistle sign there, W, anytime you guys see a W sign, that means whistle. And then down there it says yard limit. We'll get another shot at that. But yard limit is basically a speed reduction zone. These are part of the frog or switches as well. See some equipment up ahead. Just got to be very careful here. I can actually walk out of the gauge. So here, oh yeah, they're restoring this, it looks like. It's an old wood panel caboose, like very old wood panel caboose. Looks like they've done some repainting. That looks all repainted recently. Looks really nice. Go up top too, they put like a liner to help protect it from water. Oh, look at that too. Jeez. Yeah, that's a very old switch throw. You can see all the moving parts there. All right, so, oh, here's the other side of the caboose. Yeah, it looks like they're getting there. And these rails are silted in. There are two tracks, you know, two rails right there. It's just sunken in. But to the right of me, this is cool. This is an open air car. This looks fully operational. Brand new seats. I love those chairs with the bench style seating in there. Really nice looking. Oh, here's a switch frog so you guys can see right here. So here's the inner that you guys saw down there. These look a little bit more modern compared to the other ones. And then here's a guide right here that kind of helps guide in the flange so it doesn't derail. A couple more pieces up here. So here's a maintenance away set of cars right here. And here's a got a guy riding a ATV down the track there. Oh wow. So there you go. There's the MaPa insignia right there. So this is, I love that. It says Laurel, Bridgerton, Muddy Creek. Maryland and Pennsylvania. Looks like at one time it said CSX Transportation right there, so this is probably a reused piece. So that is really cool. And that's hooked up to these two cars right there. Oh, dude. Oh, man, this is so cool. Wait for them to pass. I have never been this close to one of these before. This is a Plymouth. And if you guys remember on my layout, I've got Strasbourg number 1. I don't want to stand underneath this boom for safety reasons, but man, check her out. So you can see it says Plymouth right over there. See, it's got a radiator cap on there. Wow. It's got the linking coupler hookup right there. So that is a real live Plymouth. And that is really cool to see. It's got the single horn up top. So I wonder if this runs. I know this guy runs. That's the SW9 that we saw on the sign back there. Looks amazing. And they've got her chocked in place, so she ain't going anywhere. Hopefully not going anywhere. All right. Now there is a sign down here for the tour. So I guess I am allowed back here. I'm not really sure. Here's another look at the SW9. Man, she is pretty. And it's been well taken care of. It looks like it's well painted. Everything looks about rust free. I mean, these engines are getting quite old, but we'll get a better look on the way back, get a different perspective. This is a really old box car. It looks like it says tool car on there, if you guys can see that. It shows up a lot better on the camera, but you can see up top, it used to say Maryland, Pennsylvania. There's the P for Pennsylvania right there. It says tool car. Now, when these railroads merged, the York Southern and the Baltimore and Lehigh Railroad, when they merged, they actually acquired a ton of other equipment. So they actually acquired like, passenger cars, freight cars, working cars, tool cars. Passenger service was limited at all times. It wasn't like your class 1, running, 50 to 100 passenger trains a day. They only ran 12 passenger cars or passenger trains a day from, I believe 6 of them were going from Baltimore to Delta. The other 6 would go from Baltimore to York. So they would keep on running trains, and then on Sundays, I believe they're only limited to 6. Now that was mostly because from the research I did, and also a video on the railroad from the Historical Society, they could only run 6 trains on Sundays because of the Pennsylvania Dutch. They didn't want to hear the whistles and have people working on the railroad. They were kind of offended. I think it's kind of funny, but they basically run trains from, Pennsylvania, Maryland, back and forth. There's a couple more pieces of motive power and maintenance away equipment next to this beautiful stream. So we'll carefully cross this bridge right here. I might actually walk on the ties on the way back because that was a little sketchy. Wow, so this is really cool. I think this is a rail setter right here. And look at all the controls in this thing. Man, it's just, God. All the hydraulic lines. Now, most of the lines look new. They're still shiny. Like in here, they look newer. Anytime you see them like crusting up or getting discolored, like that one in there, those are usually older. But a lot of these lines look replaced, so this is in use. I'm sure this thing works. It looks like it can work. But I'm always amused by all the lines and everything. How do you know where everything goes? And here is a chart to show you where everything is with all your handle. It's a handle mapping pretty much where everything goes. Oh yeah, here's some newer lines. You can see it's got the newer, like a vinyl covering on them. Backside of that. Oh, here we go. Number 10 cannery. So these signs are all hidden all over the place. Number 10 cannery. This stone foundation marks the site of a large cannery built by W. Scott Whiteford in 1903. So stone foundation. It's right here, covered in all this natural covering. Oh, this thing's gnarly. Wow. This, I haven't seen one of these in a while. I'm not exactly sure what these do, but I think these might cut. They look like cutting tools up top, like blades. They would spin. It's on each side, so maybe it's for like clearing the way or ballasting, because you can see these would kick up once they'd be put on the ground. So I'm not exactly sure. If you guys can tell me in comments, much appreciated. Here's the backside. So this might be for digging, for new rail paths, stuff like that, or clearing out old ties that are rotted and then completing a new rail bed. But that thing looks fierce. You can see all the stuff that's been kicked up in there. It's all chipped and everything from just daily use. And this is cool. This is, I believe this is for lifting up rail. You can see it's flat. So this gets a nice grip on the rail, and it can pick it up and move it. This looks fairly new. I would say last maybe 20 or 30 years. It's got all new, it has a new oil filter, or that actually looks like a hydraulic filter. Yep, it's a hydraulic filter. So this is what they use for their excursions right here. Or at least one type of excursion. It's a maintenance away speeder that I think, is it powered? There's an engine right there, or at least a radiator. So this is probably your power unit. There's a radiator cap on top. So this might be what they use. I would love to ride one of these in the woods. It'd be so great, especially in the summertime. Sign me up. Oh, wind's picking up a little bit. Here you go. So you get to sit on one of these, ride the tracks. If you look up on the pole to my left, for any of you guys that collect insulators, there's two of them right there. So we got some double line action here in the yard. Now, like I said before, I believe this is the only surviving part of the MaPa left. A lot of it is unfortunately been like torn up or abandoned forever, then torn up or paved over. It's really sad. The MaPa would go through a couple of my stomping ground towns where I grew up, such as Bel Air, Maryland, Forest Hill, Maryland, a couple other smaller towns in between. But there's actually a hiking trail. I believe the Gunpowder hiking trail off of Route 1. The Little Falls Trail would actually follow where the MaPa would be. So the MaPa actually would go across Bel Air Road, which is now Route 1. And then what I've actually talked to with my friends and things like that live in the area, they said Route 1 has actually moved a bunch of times. It's changed, either changed directions or completely moved. So we're gonna go down there in a little bit, check out some more stuff. But I couldn't, pass up this shed here. Had a sign to it. All right, what do we have here? the tool house. All right, let's get a look at that. Built for the MaPa in 1911, was the base of operations for the Muddy Creek Forks section gauge. The foreman and 5 to 7 track workers were responsible for maintaining about 10 miles of track. So I'm not sure of the extent of this part of track in here before it comes to a complete stop. Here's some other parts. In here, some like pulleys, it looks like. And then on the ground, it's like a wheel set there. And then to my left, there's actually, it looks like a like some type of transfer box hooked up to a set of wheels for speeders or something like that. We're continuing down the track. But I will be back here in June to check this railroad out and ride the rails here. It'd be awesome to check it out. But it looks like they've been doing some other track maintenance. Have some really cool pieces. There's a bucket, like a grab bucket. I think that would come off of like a steam shovel back in the day. And there's a couple other buckets there. But there's other pieces like grating, old compressor tanks there, air tanks, all kinds of other stuff. But I do have a feeling that there would have been a switch right here that would maybe go up to the tool shed. That just looks like it would make sense. All of this wasn't here. It just has the profile, because usually railroads would never blast. Like, this has all been blasted. They would never blast the hillside unless they really had to. So it's just an assumption. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I can always explore, an imagination here. But knowing how these rails look, like these ties look different, and the rail in here looks different, I think this would have been a set of tracks. Now, that building was probably always there. It's just the way it is. This kind of supports my theory. We have switch parts right here. Here's a frog there. There's an actual switch arm. See, it goes down to a point right in there. Still trying to look for a date on the rails. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is Scranton, a really old Scranton rail in here. Just looks like it. Looks like the stuff I saw down at the Susquehanna. All right, guys, so I had a hunch and I was correct. This is Scranton rail, which looks very similar to the rail up by Susquehanna State Park. There's a bunch of patents on this track. It says 1891, 1890, 1892. So I would say this rail can safely be from the 1890s, which looks amazing for what it is. But this railroad merged in 1901, and according to the Historical Society, the first what would you call it, timetable, charter timetable, was out in April of 1901. The railroad officially merged in February of 1901, actually February 14th. So one side of the railroad came in on February 13 to merge, sell their assets. They brought all of their investors in and controlling parties, you could say. And then the other railroad merged February 14th. So they came to an agreement or a compromise. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is in really bad shape right here. It's completely washed out. And I'm assuming that is because of this to my right and left here. This stream that comes down the hill. Let's see, there it is. Right down there, you can see where the water would wash up and wash the rails out, going down to the river here. But we have to cross. See, I'm at a washout point here. Don't know how far we're gonna go. I don't know how far these rails go, but so far so good. Wow. Okay, so on my left, this is cool. Here's another insulator pole, and you can see the insulators all at the top. Whoops, right there. But I will be on the lookout for insulators. I do collect those. If they're up on a pole like that, I don't bother them, but if they're down on the ground, it's not hurting anybody. All right, to walk in the gauge again. All right, so there's the end of our lead rail there. I have a strong suspicion that the rail excursions go the other direction because of the, I don't know, the status of the rails up here, or the ties. Yeah, we're back into some older rail on my left. It's actually delaminating right there. Right there, it's a delam, which isn't good, but it is only the safety rail. Now, we are in the direction to go to Delta, Pennsylvania, which is right over the border on the, we'll call it the 95 corridor of Maryland, right off the border of that. So these rails would lead in this direction, will lead you to Delta. Now, going behind me, northwest, will lead you to Red Lion, Pennsylvania. All right, so these rails are becoming a little bit more rough. We have growth in the gauge. So like I said, I think they run the excursions the other direction. Yeah, a lot of sticker bushes in here. All right, so we're coming up on an area I can guarantee that they don't use this at the moment. I'm sure they would love to go out this way, but here we go. Right here. And look up there. We cannot go any further. I'll zoom in. So yeah, this is the end of the line for us. We're gonna head back, and then we're gonna film some more stuff in town. Maybe go a little bit further down the other direction. All right, guys, so here's the culvert we passed over, and we went all the way pretty much down there. The railroad takes a dog right, which is very famous for this railroad. It had lots of curves to it, lots of guide rails just like this, all the way down to Maryland, pretty much. It was like this, and even through Bel Air and all that. And like I said before, it took over 70 miles of track to get to York, Pennsylvania. And York and Baltimore, that area, was only about 45 miles if you would have taken like I-83. But like all of that was never there. Really 83 and 95 and the Beltway kind of put these railroads out of business. Really, you can ship just as much stuff over highways compared to this railroad. This railroad only operated about 2 freight trains a day on their normal scheduled week, the 5-day scheduled week. Weekends, they would do excursions, special train runs and things like that between York and Baltimore. But then also the freight trains went from mostly farming products, some hard goods, furniture, stuff like that, to strictly dairy products from local dairy farms here down to Baltimore. All right, here's the other side of the cannery. And they said this is large for today. The foundation extends down at the corner and then past that shed that's right there in the frame. So it is quite long. It actually goes up to the maintenance away speeder there. And they have all of this foundation in here. We have engine number 82 SW9 switcher engine, EMD, and I forgot to check this out before. You got the old journals here, hot box. I think, I'm not exactly sure what this is for right here. Maybe it's some type of mod to cool off your bearings. But I have seen some that are connected to it. It's for speed, like your speedometer, things like that. Here's your light cover. These are your jack points, so you can lift these up. And then these used to be for just holding tools. And then back in the day, they'd have these giant beams you could actually use. They'd actually be in the larger hooks. Let's see, here we go, like these here. And here's the crazy thing. Oh, there's front, F for front, right there. Does this engine have it? Yes. So you see this notch here, they eventually outlawed this practice in railroading. You could take a piece of wood. I forgot what the term is, but it's basically, if I'm across, here's a great example. If I'm a car on this track, let's say I'm on this track next to it, you line up with that notch with a beam or a post, and this engine could push this car across the track. Now it's extremely dangerous because usually those beams would explode, or you get crushed, or the beam would become dislodged. So they outlawed it in railroading. I believe the boxcar, here we go, the boxcar has it. We'll walk down here again. And these are usually on the end of the trains too. Yeah, here we go. So here's another notch for it. You place that in, and then you line up to this right here, this dimple on the back. So if you guys ever see this, that's what that's for. Here's another piece of maintenance away. And this is the coolest thing I've seen in a while. It's a tractor maintenance away piece. All right, guys, so the wind did pick up a little bit. I took a small break. Milepost here, 56.2. So we are going up. And like I said before, I think it's 56.2 miles to Baltimore, not to York. But we're gonna follow these tracks a little bit further, see where they go. This looks like a very active side of the railroad. It's very clean. Lots of new ties in here. Fish plates aren't popping up, but it's still an old rail. It's 1890s low profile rail through here. Like smaller stone, like in here, that's like number 57 stone. That's a beautiful property up there too. Jeez. These look like remnants from some type of drainage system in there. Maybe that was a foundation to a building, maybe a mill that sat in there one time. Pretty cool. There's probably a whistle post to my left. Yep. Wooden whistle post right there. Also took a little bit to charge my phone. These gimbals and things like that, apps, do take a little bit of a toll on the mobile device. Yeah, these tracks are in better shape than the other side so far. There are a couple rotted ties, but I think if they're just moving that, set of maintenance away speeder cars, I think this will be fine. And we are, appears that we're going downhill. You can see it down there. It starts to go off to the left. Let me actually get out of the gauge here. There we go. We'll walk on the side. A little bit easier to walk. We're coming up on some ruins on the left. It's a retaining wall of some type. That. So maybe there was a track there at one time. Maybe, I don't know. You can see it's flat on top. And it is angled like it's supposed to take a lot of bearing force or bearing weight. Yeah, it's not angled on this side. So I'm assuming this is something railroad related. There could have been a bridge that went across right here into the woods, going across the creek. Or there could have been like a water tower here or some type of switch. Maybe they built this for some type of tower. Looking up in the trees, I don't see a whole lot that looks man-made other than that sheared off piece of rock right there. Lots of rail ties in here. Now, I believe most of this railroad was a single line compared to the NCR, double line in most places, single in some. But I have seen lots of pictures on this railway. Oh, there's some wind. 56.4. All right. Oh, here's an old spike. Right here, just off to the side. Yeah, when I can get out of the gauge and walk on the side, I will. But I don't know how much further I'm going to go up. I don't want to get too far away from where I started. According to my watch, I've already walked about 4 miles today, just on the rails. So what a lot of these railroads will do to stay within their class parameters, they'll only replace every other ties or so. So here's a great example. Right in front of me, we have a new tie right here. This one's been completely replaced, but a little bit older. You have one tie that's rotted, then a new tie. So every other 2 ties or so, you'll see a replacement. And they have to do that. That's their parameters. But like I said, if they're only running that, either the switcher engine on here or that maintenance set of cars, they should be okay. Now this is really cool. Here's a sheared off face of the hill. Starting in here, going back, you can tell they just blasted and this whole thing just sheared off like that. And there is a reddish color. There's some red algae on there. We're coming up on a crossing after this clearing. All right, guys, this is right out of like a movie or something. This is crazy. Oh, I just fell down a hole. Gotta be careful. Look at all this green. And that's where we came from, down there. But here is like a gorge or a valley that they blasted out of here. You can see the different marks on the rocks. Yeah, there's a face right here. They blasted. Oh, here we go. Look at that. There's a drill mark right here. So they drilled down and blasted this baby out. And this is a guarantee of this was one line all the time. There's no way for 2 rails through this gorge. It goes all the way up, probably about 75 feet up there. More drill marks. Just heard something back there. I think he said this is a Laurel crossing. I'm not sure. I'll have to check it out. This is posted up there. And there's the gorge. Ah, here we go. Here's some rail equipment. Extra rail, maintenance away. Here's M&PA preservation on this guy. I think that's a compressor. Yeah, air compressor right there. Those are fun, very loud. Oh wow, here's a Canadian Pacific maintenance away piece hooked up to this piece of equipment here. Let's see. Usually says on these, this is an identification number. So there's ever an emergency or you can report something, you call the number here, you can report the crossing number. Those usually correspond across the entire, for I believe it's the entire state. But usually it says what crossing it is. So we're gonna head back. All right, so we went through the gorge, as you guys saw. Really cool. And this curve to my left here, and this curve is really spectacular. I've never seen a railroad curve like that before. And this is an interesting place for sure. And you can see it going through the woods, tracking that way. All right, everyone, that's going to conclude this railroad adventure for today. Beautiful Easter day. It's around 70 degrees out here. I had such a great time just walking these tracks. And there is a guided tour in the Heritage Village out of Muddy Creek Forks Heritage Village. There's little signs everywhere. You can follow them, or like I did, I started to follow them, and then I got kind of distracted because of the beautiful railroad pieces, just like this SW9 behind me. I can't wait to get out here to ride some of these engines whenever they start up in June. I believe it said June 18th. It's only on Sundays, so definitely look up their calendar, and their website will be in the description of this video. If you guys are new to the channel, you had a great time, please consider subscribing to the channel and give the video a like. It's the easiest thing to do, and it really helps out the channel. Also, I love to hear your guys' comments if you had a great time, or if you know any other information about any of the equipment here or this particular railroad. I'd love to hear from you. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope to see you all in future adventures just like this.